Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad and the Old. Your host, Mark and Sam. This is another Kaiju episode, and we're going to be covering Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, made in 1991. Hi, Sam.
Hey.
So, carrying on with our Kaiju stuff. This is, what is it? Is it the Heisei?
Heisei.
Heisei.
Heshesei.
Yeah. Now, this is a sequel to Godzilla vs. Biollante, which was made 2 years before this. The one we covered last time. Now, Godzilla vs. Biollante was a bit of a flop.
Yeah.
Which is a surprise. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But what they did, because it was a bit of a flop, they decided they were intending to do a whole series of new nemesis for Godzilla. But because it was a flop, they thought they'd bring back a name that everyone knew. So King Ghidorah was brought back for this one. Not a bad decision. It would have been nice to see some of the new monsters, wouldn't it? But I kind of like Ghidorah, so it's fine. But I really like Biollante. They never used Biollante again, did they?
Nah.
And this one was a success. So after this, there was a whole run of sequels, a new one each year until 95. So we got quite a few ones close behind this, which we'll be following up with shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to take this one for a bit?
Okay. Well, the film kind of starts with the Japanese government sort of. In fact, I can't actually remember how it starts. The earliest point I remember is then...
There's a bloke who's a kind of a psychic, isn't it? Who finds... Yeah. There's a group of... Basically, it goes back to World War II. We see Japanese soldiers on an island, don't we? Fighting Americans. And this big... Almost like a T-Rex. Well, it is a T-Rex, isn't it?
It's a Godzillasaurus.
Yeah, that's what they call it, but it's kind of much more like a T-Rex than Godzilla. It's a really big one, though. It's a really big one. Bigger than real T-Rexes. And the Japanese are fighting, but the Godzillasaurus starts attacking the Americans.
Yeah.
And they kind of go on about how it was like rescuing them, but it's kind of, you pointed out, it's probably more like the Americans were shooting at it. And there is quite a bloody headshot at one point.
It does have a chunk of its jaw shaken out.
And it's kind of bloody. It's like an anti-tank weapon. And then he appears to die, and the Americans are like, getting all rowdy about it, but
he gets up and stomps on them.
It is a bit of a rope-a-dope. He gets straight back up, starts stomping on them and all sorts. It's kind of fun. A bit of rear projection going on, but essentially the Japanese soldiers survive, whereas a lot of the other Japanese soldiers in other islands around it don't. But the Godzillasaurus does kind of die, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but then
this film's got a bit of a time travel plot. So in the original timeline, it would have been hit by a H-bomb test and mutated into Godzilla.
Right.
Now, in modern day, which is 1992, I think.
Yeah, 92.
The Japanese government has been approached by some time travelers from the future who are trying to prevent Japan being destroyed, or so they say.
Right.
Because Godzilla, I think they say he goes nuclear or something like that.
Yeah.
He renders the entirety of Japan uninhabitable.
Okay. But, that's what they say, anyway. Yes.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few plot spoilers on this, because, I mean, the plot isn't the important thing about this.
No.
Actually, the film was released in 91, but it was December 91, so I can quite see why it might be 1992 in other... in various sources it might be listed as 1992. It is set in 1992 though. They definitely reference 1992. I remember them saying something about 1992. And we do get a time travel machine that looks a lot like the Back to the Future.
That was kind of good.
Kind of funny. What is really... Oh no, we'll come to the submarine sinking a bit later. So we see this particular commander commanding his forces, and then we get him in 1992. And bizarrely, considering it's 40 years later, he looks exactly the same, apart from he's not wearing a Japanese military uniform. Yeah. But he looks exactly the same. They really did make him They didn't really try and make him look younger, did they?
No.
Or anything like that. What else happens? And then there's
these time travelers come and they take a random group of people. There's like a story writer, a dinosaur expert, and Miki say something or other, but she was a psychic in Biollante.
It's not clear. But they've also got an android, haven't they?
Yeah.
Called M11. Who looks like
Arnold Rimmer.
Arnold Rimmer from Red Dwarf. Really looks like Arnold Rimmer. I kept expecting him to do the funny salute or quote some
directive.
Whenever
the picture on the website, we should put like the two of them next to each other.
Say who's who? Yeah, they're separated at birth. And there's hold on. I'm trying to read some of the blurb.
They go back to the past with one of the Futurians. I think they're
Futurians, yes.
But they move Godzilla
and they're from
leave.
2204.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
They leave behind these tiny little like future pets called Dorats. Which are like these weird little dog things with bat wings.
Yeah, and vampire teeth and scowls. They're a bit odd looking, but they're kind of cute-ish.
And then, so they're left behind when the nuke goes off.
Yeah.
And they mutate and form into King Ghidorah.
So Dorats become King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
So in this timeline, King Ghidorah is not a monster from space controlled by space aliens. It's homegrown.
Good old homegrown.
Mutant thing. They've changed the timelines.
Yeah.
In the story.
But they moved Godzilla to the Godzillasaurus to the Bering Strait, deep under sea.
Yeah.
Which...
They also... I'm trying to think what else happens.
But Ghidorah attacks, and it turns out the Futurians can control him. And they proceed to destroy a huge amount of Japan. Because apparently it becomes like a huge... superpower in the future,
and they don't want it to become that. They want to lay waste to Japan.
Yeah.
So King Ghidorah starts laying waste to Japan, but the
plan is that they'll send a nuclear sub to fire modern missiles at the Godzillasaurus corpse in the hope that it'll make Godzilla again.
First reanimate it and it become Godzilla. And they do say lines like, "It's obvious that will happen." You know, like not obvious is obvious. I don't know. So there's all this messing around with time now. So therefore, in this timeline, Godzilla never came about, but King Ghidorah did because the Dorats got nuked.
Yeah.
So they eventually nuke Godzilla.
No, they don't. They don't. It turns out that another submarine disappeared a few years prior to this, a Russian nuclear sub.
Yes.
And the Godzilla's arrived to be already been created.
Now,
and he's on his way.
There's a very weird thing in this film, and I guess it must happen now and again with films. They talk about a Russian sub sinking in the Barents Sea. And this film was made in 1992. And in 2000, a Russian nuclear sub did sink in the Barents Sea, which is because I said to you at the time that really happened, and you like what? And then I looked up and it was in 2000, but I thought it happened like 5 years ago, but in fact it was 2000, so 15 years ago that happened. But I do remember it. Yeah, weird coincidence that, especially when you're watching a time travel film.
Yeah.
What? Okay. So basically, the whole thing was this whole plot. It was a really contrived plot, but I kind of followed it. And I don't know. I think I'm sounding like I find it all very wearisome, but it was okay. It was fine. I kind of like they had all these kind of a bit Thunderbirdsy spaceships or time ships or whatever. They were kind of cool. It was all right.
So it eventually ends up that Godzilla and King Ghidorah start beating the stuffing out of each other for...
Yeah, and again, we actually timed this. Godzilla doesn't appear for the first time until 30 minutes in.
The Godzillasaurus appears a few times, but Godzilla himself, aside from a brief heat, a thermal image isn't in the film until...
What, a CG image?
No, a thermal.
Oh, okay.
Right at the very start, they're like, here's where Godzilla is after his fight with Biollante.
Yeah.
And it's like a thermal image, and he's like out in the bay or something.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot what I was going to say now. What did keep me... And then we didn't see Godzilla, the new Godzilla, until over an hour in.
Yeah.
And this was a fairly long Godzilla film, an hour and 40. But what kept me interested was the shenanigans with the... Futurians and the android in particular, because he looked like Rimmer. I found it very entertaining. I kept quoting Ace Rimmer, for example, and it was kind of funny. And again, it showed Japan's kind of obsession with white headwear. He was wearing a white crash helmet.
Yeah.
Which we've seen in other films, haven't we? They like wearing white helmets.
But that's not really a Japan thing. If I could pull up like a dozen American sci-fi films with big white helmets.
There's a reason for that. America had a lot of turbulent times in the early 70s, and one of the sort of images of those turbulent times was that there were cops wearing white helmets who were being kind of fascist.
Okay.
So that's in the American consciousness, but I don't know the background for white helmets in Japan. There could be a significant one, or it could be just a fashion. I don't know. You know, it could be like the helmets that Bobby's wearing in the UK. It's not. There's no reason for that other than that was the original design, and that's kind of stuck. Okay. So anyway, we finally...
It's official Japanese uniform.
Oh, okay.
Military.
Oh, well, there you go. It's harking to that then. So we get Godzilla and Ghidorah fighting
for probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good old fight.
Yeah, they're properly... There is a bit where Godzilla, for maybe 5 minutes, has grabbed Ghidorah by both his tails and is like slamming him onto the ground.
Yeah, that was kind of funny because it looked really... completely non-physics. It was obviously.
And then it got bloody and violent because he blew off the middle head.
He blew off the middle head.
And it started blowing holes in the wings.
Yeah, which he should have done in the beginning. But in the meantime, M11, the android, is running around super fast, and it looks really bad, but it's kind of entertaining. They reprogram M11 to be a good guy, don't they?
Yeah, so it becomes even more like the Terminator.
Becomes very Terminator. It does.
I think I started calling him the Riminator.
The Riminator, yeah, he did. And bits of his flesh are missing, and you can see metal underneath going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to remember. Ghidorah gets beaten, doesn't he?
He gets killed.
He gets killed, yeah. And I looked at the clock, and there was 20 minutes left. So I was trying to think, how are they going to pad this?
And so they bring back Godzilla to kill Ghidorah. But now Godzilla's still in the middle of Tokyo. Yeah. So what happens? The good Futurians go back to the future, build a Mecha King Ghidorah, and bring it back to the past. So.
Yeah. So then we have a Mecha King Ghidorah, which is fairly cool. He's got a metal middle head and metal wings, isn't he?
Yeah.
A metal kind of chest plate thing.
He's got like greaves and the end of his tails spiked. So
we have a fairly nifty fight with Cyber Ghidorah, kind of thing, or Mecha King Ghidorah for a really clumsy title. That's what it's called. Again we get Godzilla getting stomped, but doesn't he rope-a-dope this as well? Pretend to be like gone and jump up at the last minute and start zapping.
Yeah, I think so. Because they're like, he's been beaten because he's got all these electrical hooks stuck in him. He just like gets up and blasts the control pod that's got the woman in.
One interesting aspect about this film, I know it's kind of mentioned in other ones, but not so strongly as in this one, is there's a conviction that Ghidorah's a saviour or a good guy for Japan, isn't it? Even though he stomps Tokyo near the end. But there is this thread, isn't there, of like, Godzilla will protect us. Yeah. This nonsense. Because it goes back to the World War II thing. Where he apparently saved the soldiers, which I think is ambiguous to say the least.
Considering by this continuity, he's stomped on Tokyo in the 50s, stomped on Tokyo in the 80s, and stomped on Tokyo but got distracted by a big plant.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, there's no real reason for them to think that. This was a good fun one. I kind of enjoyed this one. After the terribleness that was, I thought, of some of the earlier Godzilla reboot ones, I think Biollante was a good one, even though it flopped. And this one carries on that trend. So I'm hoping this particular set are going to be pretty solid. Is it? I've forgotten how to say it. Heisei. So that'd be good. I think did you mention this was intended to be Godzilla versus King Kong?
No.
Or something along those lines?
You were talking about it.
Okay. There are some ideas of Godzilla versus Kong, but they were frightened about getting the rights. And even Mecha Kong or Mechani Kong, which they were concerned that they would violate. That would have been kind of cool, but this was pretty solid. I kind of like this. Dubbing wasn't great, but it was okay. They didn't really use silly voices.
Nah.
There wasn't none of that. It's just the lip syncing was pretty bad. Some of the dialogue kind of didn't make sense, but it was mostly okay. So, yeah, not a bad one. Not a bad entry at all. What would you give this one out of 10?
I'd give this an 8.
I'll give it a 7. Very happy with the last two we've watched. I was getting really worried because the ones before that I found quite dreadful, but this was fine. I think I said to you, Godzilla movies stand on two things. The actual final battle, obviously, but I haven't seen one where there's been a bad final battle. I haven't said that. Any of them. But the other major part is what the shenanigans they get up to before the final battle, because we do have usually an hour, 50 minutes or an hour of padding before something happens. Occasionally you get stuff happening right at the beginning and then you have 50 minutes of stuff. Sometimes it just takes 50 minutes, and it's how well they use that. And this one was pretty solid, I think, pretty solid. So I enjoyed it. Can't remember what we're doing. Oh, I think it's Mothra next.
Yeah,
Godzilla
versus Mothra
reboot.
There's also named Godzilla versus Mothra 2.
There was one thing we forgot to mention. In this one, Godzilla's even bigger, isn't he? This
when he gets
timeline
remade, he's even larger than he was.
Yeah, they used the bigger nuclear weapon.
Because it's modern.
So he's bigger in this one than he was before. So again, that's kind of a bit of a change. Good monster outfit. Pretty solid.
Yeah.
King Ghidorah actually looked really good in some shots. Really good.
Yeah.
It was more when he was kind of being thrown about by Godzilla, he looked bad.
Yeah.
But there were some shots we were flying in that were really quite wonderful. I like the fact he's got a kind of dragon's heads. That kind of looks cool. Japanese dragon's heads. I like this one. So I'll be looking forward to the next one myself. Anything more to say about it?
No, not really.
No, good solid one. Bit longer than the usual Godzilla, but it wasn't boring or overlong. It was fine. All right then, bye from me.
Bye.